This is episode 47 of Beyond the Track. Welcome to the show. It's going to be a good one. Lots of questions for my guy, Josh Osby here. Josh, welcome to the show. I got to ask you first thing, though. I see the Ricky Carmichael jersey behind you. It's framed up. Is there an RC signature on that too?
Yes, there is. There actually is. That's actually my team owner, David Eller. He's got some cool memorabilia. And I've not talked to Ricky too much, but I actually talked to him recently because of Supercross as of late. And man, what an awesome guy. That guy is so down to earth, just humble and such a good guy.
Hey, he's a weird star, right? Like, he's the greatest of all time. He's super famous, and you just wouldn't know it, right?
He wouldn't know. Just super casual and cool.
Yeah, and I'm around him, obviously. I'm around him all the time. But, a kid will walk up, or a dad and his kid, dude, so respectful every time. So, yeah, no, he's the champ, bro. But, yeah, I noticed that, and I'm thinking that's got to be, God, the Honda year, right? When he was, I think that's, or maybe not.
There's a picture here. Hold on.
Yeah, what's it say?
It's a Honda. He's standing there with Mike LaRocca. And this sounds bad. I don't even know who the other guy was, but it was, yeah.
Are Ricky's
Honda,
bars like roll? Are Ricky's bars like roll back onto the tank?
There's no picture of him riding, but that would have been the time period. Yeah, his bars used to be just so rolled back.
Dude, hey, we'll get into some technical stuff. I'm going to ask you about your riding and your bike, but dude, Ricky, it blew me away. I don't know how he rode those bikes back then.
Just wide open too, huh?
Never let off. But hey, man, thanks for coming on the show. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you now in a couple months, but what are we doing? What's summertime like for you? How are you feeling? I know, like Salt Lake, we had a rough one there at the first go. Just kind of catch me up to speed on how you're feeling, what you're doing.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. I went into Salt Lake with a broken wrist, unfortunately, or fractured wrist. So that was kind of a bummer trying to get through that. And then, like you said, had a rough first race, tangled with another rider, went down. Since then, the plan has been, it's actually Redwood was supposed to be my first outdoor to do. I'm just going to do a couple of them for fun and kind of do them to enjoy them. As weird as that is. But yeah, I've just been dealing with my wrist a lot. Unfortunately, been going back and forth to the doctor trying to figure out what has been going on. I'm dealing with a lot of numbness and stuff through the hand, which is a massive bummer. But as soon as I figure that out, the plan is to still do a couple outdoors. I hopefully will be able to catch on to some towards the end of the series. But yeah, for now, I've just been going to, some GNCC races, some quad races. I rode a quad, just been trying to have some fun and enjoy it. Like, this team is really diverse as far as so many different genres of racing. So, man, it's like a cool opportunity for me to go check out a bunch of things that I've wanted to check out. I actually started on the quad. So for me, that's cool to go back to that side and kind of check it out. We have like the best in the world, Joel Hetrick, that guy's unbelievable in the quad. So when you start seeing and being around those guys and see how gnarly they actually are, you gain a whole nother respect for that. So yeah, I've been having fun, man. As big of a bummer as it is not being able to ride with my wrist so much, I've been having a super good time hanging out with the guys and still traveling around and going to races.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of splits it into two, right? On the career side, you're like, dude, I want to ride. I mean, I'm assuming Redbud would have been a good one too, because I know you're not far from there originally. So you're like, Redbud. But then on the personal side too, you do have a really cool team that is, I mean, they're all over the place. Like, obviously, you guys were in Supercross. You had Arena Cross. I know you showed up a couple of the Arena Crosses late. And then they're in the GNCCs and the quad. I mean, what is the team owner is he just a race fanatic? Like, if there's racing somewhere, he's going to stick something out there? I mean, it seems like he's just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the guy absolutely is just a diehard racing fan, which is super, super awesome. Like, we need people in the sport like that, and it's super cool to have people in the sport like that. So, yeah, pretty much his son races quad, so he started off in that, and then kind of picked up Joel Hetrick and started helping him, and then the quad side got formed. And then there's not only quad, the outdoor racing, but there's GNCC quad. And then as things have progressed with more Honda support, I mean, he's not going GNCC racing, he's going arena cross racing, supercross racing, we'll go do some outdoors. So, I mean, it's just an awesome guy in general. Like, like for me, I'm contracted all year, but it's not in the contract to go do any outdoors, but he's all for helping me go do whatever I want to do this summer. Like, whether that be a GNCC or an outdoor, a quad race for that matter. Like, he loves racing as much as we do. So he's all for sending us to do whatever we want to do, which is so awesome.
So then take me back in time. You said you started on a quad?
Yeah. So that was like my first little thing was riding on a 4-wheeler. My dad just sent me a picture the other day, and it's just like I couldn't even touch the Nerf bars, if you will.
Yeah.
And he used to take me to a place called Badlands. I'm sure some people know about that. It's in Indiana. And man, just had a blast riding a quad. And as things progressed, I ended up obviously getting to a dirt bike. But yeah, that's where it all began for me. That's where I kind of learned, my backyard, how to jump a little bit and just to burn laps around my yard on a little 4-wheeler. So yeah, going back to that now and seeing the level that Joel races at, it'd be like going and riding in your backyard at a dirt bike and then watching Ricky Carmichael go race. Like, that's the comparison. That's how good Joel Hetrick is. So that for me is cool, seeing like, when I rode a quad, it was like there was no suspension. Like, there was suspension, but it wasn't tuned or any good stuff. And like
those race bikes are now, or I mean, those things are insane now, right?
Absolutely. So it's cool to see that stuff, man, and go back and be a part of it.
What are those GNCCs like? I mean, I've seen videos of them, but I heard they're just nutty. Like, I mean, there's just tons of people. The turnouts are great. I mean, I heard those things pop pretty hard.
Dude, the fans are so rad at the GNCCs. Like, just die hard country folk. Like, they don't care. They're there having a good time, drinking beer. Like, it's so cool because everyone just packs into the woods. There is a massive turnout. It's super laid back. And then when it's racing goes, it's like, all the fans are pointing guys in the best line to go to where there's mud. And like, it's cool because the fans will go to the worst section there is and literally help the guys navigate through. And as we all know, like there's so many lines that can change in a dirt bike track in, a 30-minute moto. So when you're going for 3 hours, there's so many lines more so that can change, and whether that be a water hole or whatever. So it's really cool to see the fans literally helping guys know where to go. And then, dude, just the fans in general and like the racing, it's so cool. Like, I got to be a part of like the pit. So I posted about it the other day or yesterday on my Instagram. Like, when those guys come in, like, you're doing fuel and you're doing goggles and you're doing water, and they have like their water set up. So when you're doing all of that, and then, like the guy, this last race, what was it? Yes, Sunday. Like, there was a lot of rocks and a lot of crashing. A lot of the guys crashed. So when you're coming in and they're also doing a lot of bike work, like, I know, and one of our guys, Cody Barnes, his bars are all twisted down to his gas caps. So they're loosening bars and resetting those up. Meanwhile, somebody's filling up with gas and he's getting goggles. And like, dude, it's so cool to be a part of. Like, it's an adrenaline rush for even somebody just helping with fuel or goggles, like, not racing, or us racers. Like, that's what it is. It's an adrenaline rush when you go race. So like, being there watching, I wasn't expecting that much of an adrenaline rush trying to help these guys get back going. So I had a blast.
Yeah, they seem pretty cool, man. Again, the turnouts are good. It's good to see participation up everywhere. I think it benefits all of us, right? In every industry, as long as people are outside and riding, I think it's good for everyone. Josh, I want to talk about this Supercross season. You had a great one. Again, I know the end. I'm bummed what happened in Salt Lake City. I know what you were chasing there, but we're going to get into the season. It was great, but I do want to take it back to the amateur side, and I'm going to tell you a little story of the first time I heard of you. And before I tell this story, I mean, we're cool now, right? Like, you and I are good. We're all good, because we might not be after I tell this story.
We're all good, but I guess we'll figure out after the story.
Okay, here we go. So, and you're going to have to tell me the year. I don't know if it was 11 or 12, but I'm at home riding, and a family hits me up and says, hey, our son is racing Loretta's. I was wondering if you could coach him and train him, for the next 3 months. And so I trained this kid, worked him to the bone, got him ready, and he went and won Loretta's that year, and you got second. And I don't know if you remember.
Troy Graffunder.
Troy Graffunder. So He was a local kid, and I trained him hard. I may have snuck him some parts that he probably shouldn't have had that I had because I had some relationships. So I helped him, and that's when I first heard of you because you were his main dude that year, and you guys were battling. And dude, when I look at the roster of that race, the names in that schoolboy 1 or 2,
Schoolboy
dude,
2.
that was a wicked age group.
Yeah.
But you guys went at it in that one, so I hope we're still cool. But I trained him that summer.
Yeah, no. So I actually just talked to somebody about him the other day because that year, yeah, just the amount of dudes and how stacked it was. Like to think about where those guys are at now is pretty cool. I ended up going into that last moto with like a 7-point lead, and I had to get 7th. I got 8th. I lost it to him. But here's the cool part. I never am cool with losing a championship, right?
Right.
His dad passed away 1 year later while at Loretta's, I think.
Yep.
So I always tell everyone, if there's ever a championship that I'm cool with losing, that is one cool thing, man. I'm so happy that I lost to somebody who got to spend that year, his last year, with his dad on the podium. Like, gives me chills even talking about it, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Totally cool with
Yeah.
losing it over that reason.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was a super tough story, cool family. And yeah, his dad, Mark, was just rad. But, dude, that class, and I'm just, you think about amateurs, Loretta's is coming up. So obviously everyone's gearing up for it. But man, you look back at some of the results and some of the years, and when I look at that class, you know, the names that were in there, Covington and Plessinger, I think Hampshire may have been. I don't remember them all, but I just remember going through and being like, factory guy, factory. I mean, what was it like growing up in one of those age groups where it's just like heavy hitters left and right?
Man, it was, I mean, I never stressed Loretta's too much because I kind of enjoyed the track there. For me, I only got to train on turn tracks before Loretta. So for me, that place was always like a turn track. And then Poulter always did the track work when I would go. So, man, that guy would just do unbelievable track prep, like just made it super deep and gnarly. And I was good at starts. I haven't been good at starts lately, but man, I would always be good at starts. And I focused emphasis on that a lot when I was back home. So for me, it was like I went in chill. I always had a super good time that week with my family. Like we'd hang out in the camper, and like my parents never put stress on me with racing. So for us, it was like a fun vacation. And then, so yeah, there was a lot of guys, but going in, I went in with no stress. And then, man, I had a lot of years like doing really well there. So it was really cool for me, like just a kid from Indiana paying for everything, like thankfully with my parents. But I mean, the first year I went there, schoolboy 2 year when I almost won, I mean, I was paying for my parents, but down to tear offs, goggles, gear, like I didn't get anything for free going into that. And then thinking about, whole shot win Moto 1, like all the guys that I beat, factory guys, like the list was so deep. So for me, it was cool. Like you go in as like the underdog, if you will, against all these factory guys, and you go win the first moto. I think I won. There was a big pileup, but I think I won by over 10 seconds. So it's like super cool because that can be a big turning point for people. I know it was a big turning point for me as far as support goes. And dude, you get confidence like that, you feel unstoppable. And then the rest of the week is so fun.
It's a good place, right? I mean, everybody that I know goes there. Well, not everybody, because some are there and it's intense, right? But I think if you go there with the right mentality of, yeah, I'm going to compete, but I'm going to take it all in too, it's a pretty action-packed week. I mean, I only went one time, and it was not what it was. I mean, I'm older than you by a bit, so it wasn't the same as what it is now. Like it's a pretty wild one. I'm actually going to go this year, take my son. We're going to fly there and watch some of his friends race that qualified. So, but no, cool race. And again, a big one for amateurs. And you look back at those names, you're like, dang, it's crazy. I'm going to fast forward now, Gears, because the next time I saw you was in Arena Cross when they had the Ricky Carmichael Road to Supercross. And, dude, you talk about good starts. Bro, you were a really good starter. It was like almost automatic, always up front. And I mean, what was that like for you just doing that transition into Arena Cross, which obviously leads to now you're Supercross. I mean, top 10 guy. But at one point, dude, you had to get your points. You had to come up and get your license.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give a big thanks to Tom Zont. And it was cool because he was a big part of like kind of organizing a little team for us to go racing with. And I went with Sewell and those guys and Zant, his younger brother, and he gave us really good engines to be able to do that. So big thanks to him. And I know, you know, Tom.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, when you go in with a good engine and you're confident in that, and then being young too, like, dude, you are like a light switch, man. Like, oh, you're just so frantic. And I know that that doesn't translate well. You might get the first turn well, but a guy like you'll pass me really quick because just being so frantic, you just don't make the best decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, even having somebody like Sewell and Scott, like they were veterans in arena cross and really helped kind of mold me through that. Because there's a lot of times, even in my career right now, like having somebody like Brayton come in and help me, I really don't know where I would be without people like that because you just go in so lost and don't know what to expect. And having people like that that are veterans of the sport, but be kind enough to be able to come in and help somebody like me transition into that. Dude, I don't know where I'd be without people like those guys, you know, like big thanks to them because, you know, you do go in so lost. You don't know where to be and what to do and kind of how to act. So I think people like that have really helped me, you know, progress into things with less stress.
Yeah, and they had a good program too, because I did it for those last few years when they were there too. And I mean, they really understood arena cross. So I have to imagine that, and especially having Travis Sewell around. I mean, he was really successful at it. So I have to imagine being around them made it more understandable. And like you said, you're still going to be young and you're still going to do young things, but at least having them kind of, you feel like it like straightened out maybe where you would have went astray a couple of times with either a bike setup or decision making. It was like they kind of helped you get through it, navigate it, and set you on the right path.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, and I did like that was a big learning curve for me. I mean, I made a lot of stupid decisions and stuff through that time period. But having people like that, it was like, you know, especially Sewell, he's very calm in a lot of situations. So he would always kind of help me navigate through like, all right, here's what you should do. And even track walk or something like that sort, like you're gonna do this and you're gonna do this. And a lot of times you might argue with him, like, dude, there's no way we're gonna do that. And the yeah, veteran like yourself, you'll know, like, yeah, that's gonna end up happening. So yeah, I mean, you know, my dad didn't race any, so as much of a help as he's been and like he's so supportive even to this day, he didn't know what to do to help me going into track walk or really anything. You know, he's supportive, like, love you, hey, you know, always pick me up when I'm down, but you really need somebody that's been there and done that to be able to help you understand those things and to go through them and just to have that different perspective and that veteran perspective as somebody like you would have.
I mean, you got that a lot now too. Again, you talk about Brayton. I know a lot of you guys ride together in that area. It's pretty action packed there. But even your teammate, your halftime teammate, Kyle Peters. I know he does. It's funny because he like does the arena cross and then some supercross. You did some supercross, but then you snuck in some arena cross. So he is your teammate, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But even him, he's got a lot of experience in both of those things too. And I know he's been helping the team. And I mean, I have to imagine it's been a fun process of, again, being a part of that team, watching it grow and having good people around that are kind of steering it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it was really, really unfortunate that JGR shut down. But I mean, we've gotten Dean Baker and Mitchell Key over from there. So I mean, those two guys are here. I'm at the shop right now, but they're here full time in an engine department. They have their own room. And then just a lot of people. We actually got Duff Raiden's mechanic here working now. So just the crew that David is assembling is a really good one. I think that we're only going to grow and get better. Um, and yeah, just hats off to David Eller, the team owner of this, for really stepping up and going all in on this, man. He is like a big fan of the sport, but I mean, he's outside of racing, very successful in business and knows what to do. Like he's making the right moves. I think that a lot of people haven't really known of the Phoenix operation as of yet. Besides this year, I think we've made big strides with letting people know who we are. And yeah, I think when people come see the shop or see pictures and see what he's really doing, it's really cool, man. That guy is in this thing deep and in it deep in the right ways, like is going about it right, doing the right things. And I think that, like I said, it's only going to get better from here.
Well, you see a lot of private teams come in and guns a-blazing, they're going for it, right? They're going to do this and they're going to do that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it fizzles out. And what I've noticed with them is that it is building and building and building. And I have to imagine that the results help with that, with Kyle Peters, doing the Arena Cross Championship now back to back. Your success on the one coast, his success on the other coast. It's like he's getting success in a lot of different ways. So it's like it's paying off, obviously, but it's kind of bringing the team and putting them more on the map, because it's not just like, hey, we got a cool semi. Like, you guys have been getting it done, and that kind of leads me into you. This season was great for you, man. Super consistent, which I love that, because dude, you see guys have a hot weekend and then the next weekend they're just nowhere to be found, and that's a tough battle for a rider. But you were super consistent this year, and kind of take me into your program and what led to that. Was there some changes that were made for you? Because not only did you turn into a top 10 guy, but it was like every week top 10 guy, and that's like a big leap,
Yeah, and thank you first off. But I talked, and my first season pro was that exact thing, is super fast in practice and maybe not so great of a main event, or super, it was all over the place. So this year I had a really good off season, kind of backed away and did my own program a little bit. Coming up here with the Phoenix guys was super good for me. And then working with Brayton, I know I bring that guy's name up a lot, but he really has been super, super good for me. In the first weekend, I think I got 10th, and I was like, man, that's, that wasn't that great. Like, I was just not that pumped on it. And he's like, man, no, this is exactly what we want out of you. Like, 10th, we'll build next weekend and we'll keep getting better. But this is way better than going and getting a 6th and then a 15th and then a 6th. Like, let's build, let's get good points this season. And yeah, every weekend it was just slowly building, and better results came and better results came. And that consistency is what I needed. So now it's like, good season, we'll build into that this off season. And then now we'll try to take this year and really build into more sprint speed. And next year I'm hoping will be even better for me. But it does sometimes take, and I've actually been working with a couple kids training this off season, and you tell, and I know you've told people this, but you got to slow things down in order to go faster. And for me, it was backing things down and getting some consistency in my program, which will in turn make next year better for me. So, and it's tough to be able to do that, because it's like, wait, you're telling me to slow down and not be as fiery? Like, that's hard to do. So backing that down will in turn make it better for me. It was good this season, and will only be better for me in the long run.
To me, it seems like you got to build a base, right? If you're taking shots at the front with no base, you're going to be hot and cold, because other variables are going to throw you off. But I feel like if you have that base and it's like, dude, I can knock these out every week now, then you have something to shoot from. You know what I mean? So does it feel like that for you, that now you've had this solid year, consistent top 10s? It's like, now not only do you believe you should be up there, but you should be up there all the time. And now it's like, okay, now let's pop these top 5s. You know what I mean? I feel like that's just a safer way to build. And it's not even just with you. You take it to the very top, like guys like Adam Cincerello. I mean, I think guys need to definitely, without question, build that base before they make a run. And that's what it leads me back to this season for you. Again, I didn't see as much crazy flash, because I've seen you before just be like, damn, Josh. But it was just like you were like a rock all year. So was there a method to that? Was that Brayton's influence, and just kind of like, hey, let's just be a rock all season?
Absolutely. And it's like, you got to strip yourself down, build that base floor to build yourself back up. That was a big part of what Justin helped me, go through the process of this winter of, training. And that it's, like you said, there's been flashes of me that people are like, whoa, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, this speed we've never seen before. And then just nothing the next weekend. So for me, it was like, back down. Maybe we, instead of being a 6th place guy, we're an 8th place guy or a 10th place guy, but we're there every single weekend. And when you back things down a little bit to where you understand, like, you might get a 6th or a 5th or something, and you don't really understand how you did it. And that's why I think guys like Dungy were so consistent for so long. It's because it was they brought themselves to a pace where he didn't win every weekend, but it was a podium ride of every weekend, and that built to championships. And he understood how he did it every weekend. So when he showed up, And I think that's when a rookie season, like, dude, you are winging it. You don't know really what's going on. That's why it's so hot
Yeah.
and cold.
Yeah.
But when you start understanding it more, you understand how you approach each week, and you understand, okay, this is going on, so this is what I need to do. So you do understand it better, and I think when you understand it better, that's when results that are consistent come.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, you have Brayton in your corner. He is I'd say straight up, maybe one of the smartest people I've ever dealt with in the sport. And I got a chance to hang with him a little bit more this year. He came on Race Day Live a bunch. Unfortunately for him, he was banged up. So I joked around on Race Day Live all the time, man. I'd rather have you on the track, but if you're not going to be on the track, come hang with us, because he was so good on Race Day Live. And I have to imagine that you took advantage of his knowledge, because when he's on the show and he's breaking things down, I'm just like, God, this guy looks at it from a different point of view. He has different angles. So did you really get to reap the rewards of that this season? And I'm assuming, especially when he was riding still even more, which gives him even more knowledge, because he might have been on the track with you that day. I mean, did you really get a lot out of that this year?
Absolutely. And it's like one of those things, mouth shut, ears open. It's when you're young, it's like easy to talk and just get so caught up in, like, A, thinking you know what you're doing, and B, just being a kid. But yeah, this year I just tried to, it's probably like a little leech to him sometimes, but like, dude, that's what it takes, like being around him. And I'd go sit with him in his shop, and, when you're in between motos, drinking water, having a snack, like, listen to everything he had to say, because he might even be talking to his mechanic about something. But those little nuggets of knowledge that you can gain on just build into something so big. And kudos to him for, like, spending the time. Like, he's got a wife, kids, and so much to do at home, and he'd spend extra time with me at the track, and break things down with me, or if I'm struggling with, you can have a good suspension guy, but unless you can tweak it yourself, it's really hard to get a good setup. So I was struggling with that for a while, and man, there were so many days he'd come down ready to go home, but he'd come down and watch me ride. Hey, try this or try this. And that stuff as a whole, when you go through a whole, and that also comes from having a good off season. When you have somebody like him throwing nuggets of knowledge in and help throughout that whole off season, dude, that builds into such a good season. So having somebody like him, like you said, he's such a smart guy. That helps out so much.
What about the off-season program? You said you took some time for yourself to kind of build up, but at the same time, you guys and the Club MX guys and there's like a crazy crew in the Carolinas that all are riding together, training together. I mean, just kind of take me through your program on what you did on your own, and then that transition into that group training where you guys were just, I mean, I see the tracks that you guys ride at the end of those motos. They're beat up. You guys are thrashing them. So just kind of take me through that chapter and what you were doing on your own first as you built up, and then as you got into the season and started doing the battles with the boys.
Yeah, so I started working with, I used to live right at Club, moved up to Charlotte, which was super good for me. I just think once you spend enough time at a dirt bike track, just get monotonous and you don't appreciate it as much. So I think for me, it was like showing up to the track in the morning. It's just like race day, you show up in the morning, you do your job, and you leave. And being at the track too much wasn't good for me. So being away from the track was super good, just like a fresh start for me. I was working with Brayton in the gym and off the bike, doing a lot more cycling. And then once we got into riding, dude, our group there is gnarly. Like, for a while, we had, I mean, just multiple gate drops of guys and just so many good guys. So when you start mixing that into it, and off the bike training and the tracks being so good, like that group of things going together is just a recipe for success, man. Like, the tracks being good, they're rough, they're just like a main event. Like, that's so awesome. And then not only that, you might get that in somewhere riding after somebody rides for a day, but riding with that group, I mean, dude, it's like riding a Supercross main event every
Yeah.
single time. And I mean, everyone knows this. It's even like Alden's guys. I think their main success is from riding with good guys all the time. When you have good guys pushing each other, dude, only good things are going to come from that, and everyone's only going to get better. So I think that's a good thing too, is just having so many good guys working to be better together.
I mean, if you look at the results that you had and Kyle Peters and Garrett Marchbank, it's like everyone elevated. Everyone in your guys' group really elevated. And I know the injuries happened. I was bummed for Crown, which was just super bummed for him. But you know what I mean? Like, everybody seemed like they were getting a lot out of it. And I guess my question is how do you keep that intensity and that fight every day, like without wearing yourself out? Because you guys are competing. Like you don't want to go to the track and get waxed by your teammate or waxed by Marchbanks. Like you got to bring it every day just to keep your mental side up too. But at the same time, that's exhaustive. So kind of where is that balance where you guys are thrashing, but at the same time not letting yourself get too worn out?
Yeah, so I think that was another good thing with me moving away and moving to Charlotte was, dude, when you're at a dirt bike track, you might be super tired one day. You hear dirt bikes ride, and you're like, and you get that guilty conscience of, I need to ride. So then you
Right.
just wear yourself down too much. So for me, it was backing down the riding a little bit and the training itself and just getting more consistent days. And that's what Justin has really taught me is, dude, you can go ride 5 days a week and train 5 days a week. But if you're just doing it at 65% because you're so tired, doesn't matter. Might as
Yeah.
well
What are
go
you
do
getting?
less
Yeah.
days. You're not, yeah, just mediocre training is what you're getting. So come to the track on the days you're doing it and come to the where, in the gym and on this bicycle, the days you're doing it and do it at 100%. That way, when you go to the track and you go racing, everything you do, you're used to doing it at 100%. And I mean, even going and you might be, not as fresh as some guys some days, or for me, it was those guys were going into West Coast. And I was going into East Coast. I was really the only guy going into East Coast. So
Mm-hmm.
some days it's, hey, you know what? When you're on dirt bikes, leave your ego at home because bringing your ego to the track and not being able to tell yourself, hey, it's okay to not be on pace today because I'm more tired or I'm not going racing this weekend or whatever it may have, leave the ego at home, show up, do your job, understand the circumstances. And that's something Justin taught me too is that leave the ego at home, show up and do your job. But that thing for me, I think the main thing was showing up on the days you're doing it and doing it 100% rather than going in 5 days. And man, I rode every day this week, but it was at 65% because you don't have,
Right.
no one can do it at 5 days a week, right? And I'd rather have doing it 2 to 3 days a week and having that spark back in me. That was good for me too.
Leave your ego at the door. That sounds like some Justin Brayton knowledge right
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
exactly.
he's smart with everything. So I did the voiceovers for Arena Cross, so I'm watching Kyle Peters. I mean, we'll get into him in a second, but he's winning all these races. And then you showed up at the very end, and I was stoked to see you out there just to add another guy to that mix. But correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you show up at Tampa, the outdoor one? Is that the first
Yep.
one you did? Okay.
Yep.
What was it like from two scenarios? Number one, you got your teammate KP, who is just, dude, he is mastered Arena Cross. He's like
Yep.
he's just mastered it. So you got him killing it. You want to get out there and give him some, but he's also got this perfect season going. So you're like,
Yeah.
how much do I really want to give this guy? But at the same time, you go back to your early days racing Arena Cross in these tight races. Now you're showing up at Tampa, which was an outdoor one. Was it kind of an odd day a little bit, knowing like all the
And
different
it
things
was,
that were going on? It seemed like an odd day.
man, it was really odd. And I'm glad you can put that into perspective. Like, you go in and everyone's like, oh man, you've been used to racing Supercross. This should be no problem. Go in, like, give Kyle a run for his money. Everything's good. Dude, when you go into an outdoor venue with weird lighting because it's outdoors, I tried to go with Supercross suspension because I wasn't sure.
A
Dude,
little
just
stiff,
so
huh?
many variables. Man, that was not a good weekend for me, just in general. So, and then when you go back to that tight racing, and people aren't used to racing with you. Just so many things. That was a weird weekend for me. So it took a weekend for me to get comfortable with things and like get bike set up back on. And like, yeah, that was definitely an odd weekend jumping back into things, but it got good after that. I had a blast.
Yeah, and then it closed out in Texas, and I think you ended pretty dang good there. At the same time, though, like the speeds are so close, and as dominant as Kyle was, he's just mastered the art of racing Arena Cross, but he wasn't like light years faster than everybody. So was it weird for you lining up going, man, I could possibly ruin this dude's perfect season here. I don't know if I want to do that, but at the same time, I kind of want to win. Like, because that last weekend, you guys were close, really close to him.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I was like, you're sitting on the starting line. You're like, and I don't even want to mess this guy up on the start because you get somebody that's like, I'm buddies with Kyle and teammates. So it's like, dude, if I was in that spot of going almost to a perfect season, you're like 18 in and you need 22 or whatever it may be. like, dude, I wouldn't want somebody coming in for a couple weekends and messing that up. So, yeah, I went for it, but at the same time, I was reserved a little bit because, dude, and if I was in that situation, I would not want somebody coming in and messing it up. So, yeah, definitely reserved a little bit because, dude, how cool is that? Like a perfect season. That's just, I think, the first time ever happening in arena
Yeah.
cross, and like, dude, just cool in general. Like, you think about Carmichael doing that. I know we just talked about that right here. Like, that is unbelievable. And I know that's a little different level with Carmichael doing it at outdoor, but like, just cool in general. Like, doesn't matter. So yeah, didn't really want to mess it up either.
But at the same time, it's like, I want to beat that guy. So,
Dude, beat
like if
him.
it was
Bonuses are
round
bigger.
10, hey, if it was round 10, let's go,
Oh,
buddy.
for
But
sure
round
going. Yeah.
18, 19, you're like, damn it, man, I got to kind of play it nice
Yeah.
here. But no, it was
Absolutely.
cool. And
Yeah.
how about I don't know this kid very well. I've never met him in person, but you got the other teammate, the young Colin Park kid. He did really good over there
Yeah.
too. Like he really woke up. You guys had some good battles at the end too. And was it cool again to kind of see the team and what it's doing? You got Kyle winning for the team because I know you guys are all committed to seeing Phoenix Racing do well. You guys are all
Yeah.
you all speak the same language for the team. But then you got this young kid coming up, and he was kind of waking up too. So it's like that. It's just like this building process of the team. So was it cool to see him kind of get up there too and find success?
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so cool about arena cross is you have a kid like him that might he's a good rider. Don't take that. I'm not taking anything away from him. But when you get thrown to Supercross, you might not be just quite ready because he is young. It can be a lot thrown at you. So when you back things down and have not only one season, but I think this year he'll do arena cross and then Supercross. Dude, what an awesome way to build into going to Supercross. And that was cool for me too, is doing almost a full season of arena cross. You just learn it, but at a smaller scale, and you understand things better. You're racing against good people, but not as many people. So I think arena cross is a really cool stepping stone that allows these guys to go in as a young kid, learn it and grow, and then be ready to go into Supercross. Because as you know, dude, Supercross is a big step. And
Yeah.
when you go down first practice for your first race and you roll down to the stadium, it's like, dude, this is real.
And then you get on the tracks, and it's one step further too. And you're like, instead of trying to
Correct.
go faster, just trying to do the obstacle. There is like a lot.
Exactly.
There's a process to it without question. Again, that brings me back to this Supercross season. Supercross is new for a rookie. They come in, it's different. But for you, even with your experience, this season was new too because of the format with the residencies. I mean, dude, your guys' season, the majority of it was done in like 2 weeks. So what was that
Yeah.
like for you to get in there at round one at Houston, and then all of a sudden you look up, you're in Orlando, and you're like, wow, we just blitzed 7 of these things. Like, did you like that? Do you think that worked in your favor? Did that help once you got the ball rolling? I mean, just kind of take me through how that worked for you.
Yeah, I think it's cool because, I mean, as you know, dude, flying can be the biggest thing, or I guess travel in general. It's, you're flying on Friday, you race all day Saturday, early flight Sunday, like that can really take it out of you in itself. So when you fly somewhere and you might get 2 to 3 races done in one place, dude, that is awesome because you race, get recovered, your normal recovery, but instead of flying, you recovered early and then you race again. And then, some of the venues don't allow this, but you might race Wednesday, get recovered, ride one day, and then race again on Saturday. Like, dude, it's
Yeah.
so awesome that you can get all this racing done and take a lot of the travel out of it. The semi's already set up. There's a lot of cool things about it. But in the back end, you do get so many races done so quick. So, like you said, you get to Orlando and you're like, holy cow, like we're almost done. So
Yeah.
I think as cool as that is, when you take the traveling out of it, and I'm sure for the 450 guys, their season probably felt pretty good because it's like, I've only done 250. So when you add double the amount of racing I've done, plus
Mhm.
outdoors in, like people wonder why Tomac and those guys might get burned out or can't back up a super or an outdoor championship with a Supercross. But people don't understand how much goes into a Supercross season alone. So when you take a lot of the traveling out of it, it's like, man, it makes the season a lot easier on the body. So I'm sure for those guys, even like, man, they probably loved being able to just go race and take a lot of the traveling out. So I loved it, man. I think it was good, and maybe even add a couple races on for the guys now.
One thing that you hear as the pushback to that is if your bike's not right, you don't have a chance to really go back and work on it. You're kind of stuck with what you're on. For you, again, you went first for your team. Everyone else came later. So how was that process where you were kind of like the first one out? You were having to iron out the race bike. I mean, you did good. So I'm assuming the bike was good, but was that difficult too at the same time where it's like what you had at round one, you kind of had to run through the majority of your season. And again, you were the first guy in the team getting your season started.
Absolutely. And I kind of think that put a lot of emphasis on getting the bike as good as we possibly could. And you always want your bike as good as you can before you go racing, but sometimes you might take a guess at round one just because you don't know where you're going to be. But you really had to make sure your bike was dialed in because, like you said, once you get racing, you're racing. And this is happening across the board for everyone at the time. But getting parts, I know it doesn't matter factory, non-factory, dealership, like just people were struggling to get parts in general. We're still seeing that whether you're in construction or anything. So, getting parts as things progress too, you didn't have time to go put that new part on and test if it was better. Luckily, I had Kyle and those guys back here riding with it, but you might have something that's good, but unless you ride with it back home and practice on it and get it used to it, that's not something you just want to put on your bike and go racing with because, dude, it can, especially when you go to round one and it works decent for, I had a pretty decent result at round one. It was comfortable with my bike. You don't just want to start throwing stuff at it and like taking a guessing game at it. So, yeah, the backside to that and the other side of the knife is like, you could take a guess and it's not as good. And you definitely want to make sure your bike is as good as it can possibly be because you don't have that time to go back and test and ride. And I think that's why sometimes you saw guys go try to sneak in a day, like, you race Wednesday, maybe they rode Friday or Thursday afternoon and just to ride a little bit, to maybe test something. So there can be a double-edged sword there. But for me, it worked out good. So it's all good.
Yeah. And again, you get so many races done so quick, it can be like a little bit of a blur. Is there one of those races in the first part of the year that stands out for you where you're like, man, it just clicked? Because, I mean, you know how it is. Josh, you might have a day when you're feeling just so good and then the results don't come, a first turn crash, just something like that. And then there's days where you don't feel right, but just it's like magic. Everything clicks. Is there one of those first 7 races for you where you just look back and go, God, that was a good one. Like felt good, started good, no issues. That just what would be the one that stood out the most to you?
I really think, I really think the second race for me, the second race in was good. I got a pretty good start and just clicked off really good laps, passing guys that I was pretty pumped on. And then I think it was the third Indy. Yeah, it was the third Indy. I got a good start, which I hadn't been getting good starts, and then just burned in laps, which was nice. Got passed by a couple guys, but yeah, that was good for me. Things could have clicked better as far as like getting a good start and really pushing for it. But when you're not used to being in that spot, it's hard to adapt that quick. That one was a good one for me. I mean, finally got a good start and just rode. That was my best result. So it was good. Burned in good laps. And like you said, you just get that flow going. It's like, it makes 15 laps go by fast.
When it's clicking, right? Like you just, like when you're having fun, I've noticed the same thing too. When I'm liking a track or I like my bike or I'm feeling good, I feel like I can do 30 laps. And then there's nights when you're just off, the bike might be off, I'm off. Dude, I get 5 laps in, and I'm just like, end this thing.
Like, dude.
It's weird how much your brain.
2-lap card.
Yeah, it's weird how, and it's not like your body's any different. You're the same in shape, but God, I swear, if you feel good, it's like your body has double strength or something. So
exactly, yeah. Confidence either building or it's not.
Exactly. So what about the Indy trip then? Because you're not far from there, right? I mean, I would imagine you grew up a couple hours. You're up north a little bit of that.
Yeah, but about 2 hours.
How was that one? Just being there. I'm assuming you've been to Indianapolis before, but just being close, kind of being back at the homeland a little bit. Like, what was that week like?
Yeah, it was cool because you get stuck in a hotel room for the week or, an Airbnb or whatever, but you don't, I mean, you feel at home in a nice Airbnb or something, but you're there for a week. So it kind of gets monotonous of Indy. We were in a hotel just because we were closer to the stadium then, but I have buddies that live downtown. So like I went and hung out with them and had dinner and went and hung out at their apartment. And that for me was cool because you kind of forget about the racing a little bit. Not that you want to forget about racing, but just to clear the mind. So that was cool. got to see a bunch of family and friends. But the main thing was going to get to hang out with some friends during the week. That just takes away from, because otherwise you sit at the hotel, you think about the racing, you go watch the race 100 times. What could I have done better? You think about things too much. So for me, it was good to just go hang out with buddies and yeah, kind of forget about racing a little bit.
Yeah, I like those two. Like you said, it can feel a little hotelish at times for
Yeah,
sure. Which is
exactly.
I'm with you. That's fine. They're nice. It's all good. But just to be able to like interact with people and kind of be able to go back, you know, I was able to do it this year when I was in Dallas. I had friends that were there. So I was able to kind of just break away and almost like take your mind off of work a little bit, you know, kind of like that detach that you're looking for. And do you feel
Exactly.
like that helps kind of reset the mind too? Because I don't know if you're the same way as me, but if I do get too in the trenches on it, I almost lose sight of what's going on a little bit. And I kind of like
Sure.
miss things. It's almost like my awareness goes out. So does it feel like for you, again, being able to detach, hang with buddies gives you that reset and motivation? Like, okay, now my head's cleared. I'm not kind of in that trench.
For sure. And that's where I go back to living at club and then now living in Charlotte, like
Mhm.
just going away, going home, not seeing a dirt bike track, not thinking about dirt bikes, and just having a separate life, if you will. That way, when you show up to the track, it's fresh. It's not. I mean, dude, I don't care who you are. You get in your own mind, and you can make things way tougher than they need to be.
Yep.
So, yeah, having that separation, I think, was key in both aspects.
So for this year, again, if you're working with Justin Brayton, I have to imagine that you guys are breaking things down because I know that he's the kind of guy that's on the flight home with a pen and paper, and he is just figuring out what went right, what went wrong. Now that you've been able to kind of get away from the season, you're looking back on 2021. What would you say the takeaway is on both sides? What did you do really right? And you're like, okay, this is good. I'm going to build off that, but I know we're good there. And then where are you maybe off? And you're like, maybe it's a bike thing, a track thing, a training thing. What worked and what didn't now that you've had a chance to kind of be away from it for a little bit?
Obviously, my consistency, I'm really happy on that. Just an overall much more consistent season, which I love that. Like that was super beneficial for me all season, and then leading into being good in points at the end. And then I lacked on my starts this year. I wasn't very good at starts, which, yeah, a lot on me. Just I don't know, just couldn't figure it out. And I was like not that good at like normally I'm a big jumper. I'd just jump anything. This year I wasn't too big on jumping things. So I think coming into next year, work on starts and get back to that jumping person that I was, all while being consistent. I think when I mix those two things together, I think that that'll be perfect for me. I think that that'll be hopefully my best season yet.
Yeah, you mentioned the starts thing a few times, and now that I think back, you were struggling with the starts this year, and that's not typical because I mean, when I first again in arena cross, when you first came on to where I was physically there watching you, dude, you were always banging the start. So was it mental this year? Was it what was it? Because that's not your norm.
Yeah, I think it was mental. Like, and I think one of those things, and starts are definitely one of those things. You can go into the same routine, do the same thing, but if you start off with a couple rough starts, you just sometimes lead into rough starts. Like when you don't, and it's always like I got good starts, so I was so confident with my starts. Like I don't know what it is about it. When you're confident on the starts, like Vince Priest, I think he's always good, or he has always been a good starts. You're confident, and you just like
Just know it.
you know it, and your reaction time is just that much better because you're that confident. So when you start having a couple bad starts, man, you just kind of go to the starting line questioning things, and you're just not that sure. So I think starting off with a little bit of uncertainty led into just overthinking things and
Yeah.
really not good starts at all season, which it ended up being okay, but it was a bummer. It could have been a big bummer.
Yeah, but I mean, I look forward to next year and seeing how you kind of mold the two together because again, maybe you were a good starter before, but that means maybe you didn't have as much experience coming through the pack, and now you've had a chance to do that. So now that part of your game is sharper. You know what I mean? So it's like now if you get back on track and gear with starts and you have an odd night where you get a bad start, at least now you know how to grind your way through. Where before, if you're always a good starter, you end up being a little one dimensional. So do you feel like again with you not going for the jumps as much, you not getting those starts, it almost opened up new parts of your program that had to be improved to where if that stuff does come back into play now, you seem more well-rounded. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that you can look at in the same aspect of somebody that wins so much as an amateur, that goes into the pro ranks and struggle a little bit because they're so used to everything going so perfect that they never really worked on the coming through the pack and the bad things
Yeah.
going on. So yeah, as much as a bad start wasn't great, I did in turn learn a lot of things in the program and a lot of things to do that I might have not learned otherwise. So yeah, when you strip everything back, there was positives that I will be able to bring into next year that yeah, you could look at it as, oh man, I got bad starts. That was no fun coming through the pack. But there are positives to that because now I know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the way you got to think of it, right? Always find the positive, even the things that maybe are bugging you a little bit. And I think that's one you can do. You could be like, look, if I get a bad start next year, bring it. Like, I'll come through the pack. I know how to do it now. I got two more questions for you. One racing related, one personal. On the racing side, 2022, you back with Phoenix? Everything program is good? And then what's the goals now? Now that you've kind of taken a step, what's the next step for you? What would satisfy you next season?
Yeah, I'll be back with Phoenix. I mean, I love it here, man. I've had such a good time just mentally. I'm in such a better spot. I love it here. I've got a good group of people, and I've spent a lot of time with David Eller as of late, and just love spending time with that guy. So I think too, in turn, being in such a happy place going into next season is just going to be even better for me. And then as far as results go, my best finish is a 6. I obviously want to crack a top 5, and I want to go on the podium, man. That is obviously everyone's dream, is to be on the podium. But I think with some proper starts and putting myself in a good position, it's doable. My teammate did it this year. That's where I want to be, man. I want to be on the podium, and that's a childhood dream. And so I want to achieve that. I think that's where we're at a good time to be able to do that.
Chipping away at it, getting closer. Last question. Again, you're from Indiana, but you've been down now in the Carolinas. Charlotte's home. You've mentioned that a few times. When you're not racing, because you say you like to be able to detach a little bit, like what do you do for fun? Like if racing is not involved in what you're doing, what are you doing? Like what how do you kind of break away and have a good time? And of course, how is Charlotte? I mean, I have an interest. I need to know how it is because I got my eye on Charlotte a little bit. So.
And the first time I ever came to the Carolinas, I drove through Charlotte, and I'm like, I'll live here. I'm going to live here someday. I absolutely love it. It's such a cool place. Like, just so many awesome people. It's clean. Dude, I love everything about Charlotte. And as far as getting away from racing, like if I can golf, I'll go golfing, go mountain bike with my buddies, like not even just training riding, just going and riding my mountain bike. I love riding my bicycle. We got a buddy, Live at Extreme. He has a bike shop here, takes care of us all super well, and has just such a good group of people that ride bikes. And yeah, we have a really good time, man. Ride bikes, go on the Lake Norman, like the
Lake
houses
Norman.
on Lake Norman are unbelievable. So Lake Norman's a cool spot. Go chill, do a little wake surfing, and maybe go tie up and hang out with everyone. Have a good time, man. It's good place to detach from everything.
Well, right on, Josh. Thanks for coming on Beyond the Track again. Like your program is good, your team is growing. It looks like you got good people in your corner and building off a good season. So I'm pumped to see you in 2022. But as far as today goes, just want to thank you for coming on Beyond the Track.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I'll see you soon.